Hi everybody, it's Daniel of Funukuleleprojects, Projects, and I have a really fun project to show you tonight. It's in this little case. And now, is that case cute or what? This is a Favilla double bout, traditional style, got my humidifier in there, all solid mahogany, soprano. I won this a while ago in an auction on eBay. It had about a 5-inch crack in it right by the bridge, and so people weren't bidding very much on it, and that's what I looked for, so I bid on it and I won the auction and I got this. Now, it had a few other things wrong with it. It had what you would call checking all over the finish, and that's like little cracking, like spiderweb cracking. It was everywhere on this instrument. And when I looked at it the inside, I noticed that it had pretty sloppy gluing. And at first I thought, I wonder if someone repaired the inside. The bridge had been reset at some point in time, and there was actually a sloppy glue job on the bridge reset. But I decided that I don't think it was really a repair that was sloppy, because of the fact that there was not any impact or change on the finish around, where you would have had to remove the top or the bottom. And it was just probably not the cleanest of manufacturing when it was put together. And so what I had to do was I had to fix this crack. Now, it wasn't a shrinkage crack where the wood gets too dry and pulls apart. This was an impact crack. And one of the challenges with impact cracks is every so often you can get a situation where, well, more often than not, the wood doesn't just cut, break down and then go right back up perfect. It'll splinter, so you'll have like a slant. And that's not a problem if you got the slant and it breaks down and comes back up. But if for some reason as it's breaking, this slanted part gets underneath this slanted part, they never quite line up right again. It's very difficult to get them to line up again. And it's usually not that extreme. It could be very, very subtle, and it just doesn't quite grab. And this looked like that was going to be that kind of a problem. So I used cleats and pulled it back together, and it probably came about 90% back. And then after that, I very carefully used a scraper to scrape it level. I modified a painting razor blade, turned it into a scraper just for this type of purpose. So it's a small, legitimate scraper now. It's got rounded edges. It will never scuff the sides. And then I sharpen it at a scraper angle, so I have a very light burr, so I can clean that up. And it did cause a little bit of, I went through the finish in a spot, but I touched that up. But more importantly, as I went down with that and scraped down and leveled out the uneven wood, I noticed that everywhere next to it, the cracks had disappeared. See that checking I was talking about? Sometimes that goes all the way through the wood down, all through the finish down to the wood. Sometimes it's superficial. In this case, it was superficial. So then that told me that all I had to do was give this a good sand. And I gave it a really thorough sanding. And then I gave it a top coat, and it looks wonderful, absolutely wonderful. This has what looks like a rosewood fretboard. It's got a mahogany, bridge. It may have a rosewood saddle, and it's a wonderful little instrument. See if it's in tune. I'll try Snowy on it. beautiful sounding instrument. I'm going to do a comparison video. I'm going to be comparing this all solid double bout Favilla with the teardrop Favilla, the all solid mahogany teardrop Favilla. Before I do that video though, I'm going to change the strings on this. I really prefer black lines on these vintage instruments because of their low tension. Yet when I did the comparison with the two Favilla teardrops, I noticed that I didn't really care for the sound of the G note on the E string. It's beautiful on this, but on the teardrop it was sort of dead. And so I tried some Worth light tension clears, and it sort of evened it out, but the whole instrument just sounded quiet and slightly muddy, so I took those off. And so I tried another light tension brand, they're called Luthier brand. You can get them by Strings by Mail. And I tried their soprano set, and it really brought the teardrop even more to life than it was. And so that is the solid mahogany teardrop. I really like the black lines on the black teardrop that I have. So in order to do a fair comparison, I'm going to put the Luthier brand on this one. Now, if for some reason the Luthier brand sounds terrible on this, then I'll go back to the black lines on this, so I'll be playing the strings that sound the best on each. I like the sound of black lines on this, but I like to try to keep comparisons as even as possible, so I will put the Luthier brand on this, and then I'll try it. Luthier brand are really light gauge strings. I've actually was talking with Jason, who makes, you know, as you know, he's one of the owners of U-Space, and he also is the one that formulated the PhD strings in terms, and so we were talking about possibly putting together a really light gauge string set for vintage instruments, but we haven't got around to that yet. So anyway, that will be a video coming up. This is a really fun project. Mainly what I had to do was just fix that crack, reset the bridge, and there was a spot up here, but it actually turned out so nice you can barely see it, where it finished, you know, checked off around here. I don't try to hide that stuff. It's part of the history of the instrument. What I did do was I put stain over this whole instrument. There's a very thin stain as a glaze over the instrument once I'd sanded it to even out the color, and then I gave it a clear coat, and then I hand rubbed it to make it look old like I usually do. And it's just a fantastic little instrument. If you ever get a chance to get a hold of a Favilla, whether it be the teardrop, whether it be one of these double bout sopranos, by all means, get a hold of one of these Favillas. Maybe you can't own one, maybe you can't get one at auction, maybe you can find someone that will let you play it. They're really fun to play. They're really a neat part of ukulele history. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you in the next video.